You're my river run high, running deep, run wild.
Yo, GM, welcome to the Breakfast Show. You're live with
Working in IT used to feel like survival mode, always on high alert. Atera changed it all. We're now managing our devices, alerts, and tickets all in one place.
Allá en la puerta del cielo, allá en la puerta del cielo, no, no, todos están celebrando, porque mi San Juan Bautista, el sueño va despertando a igual. Aquí planto mi bandera, aquí planto mi bandera para que la sople el viento, para que la sople el viento y te canto esta sirena, puro agradecimiento a igual. Llegaron los cantadores, tamboreros, paliteros, mil banderas de color y igual. Ya se va San Juan Bautista, vamos a decirle adiós. Vamos a decirle adiós, dormirá hasta el mes de junio. Corre, pique un tambor ahí mi Stay up, burn it. Yeah. I'm feeling, I just wanna taste it. Got the feeling you don't wanna wait. I know that you want me here now. Fire, burn it. Stay up, burn it. Yeah. I'm feeling, I just wanna taste it. Got the feeling you don't wanna wait. I know that you want me here now. Know you wanna party, listen to your body. I want to get naughty. Girl, I really like the way you 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 Body, turn it. Let me work it. Yeah. Put it on me, my hands on your waist. Later you can come over my place. I know that you want me already now. Know you wanna party, listen to your body. I want to get naughty. Girl, I really like the way you Girl, I really like the way Girl, I really like the way Girl, I really like the way Girl, I really like
Helen Hadsell was able to win any competition she took part in. She was known as the contest queen because she had won 7 trips to Paris.
Listen a shot, and me have to show that. But the waistline, she know if you move that. Kick up your bumper too far. Tell her claims that she bad, I know she have to prove that. Then you shake your body, embrace your body, no lazy body. God create your body, spray you with me money, stay so body. Sweat, until I'm honey. Sweat, wine for me, darling. Sweat, on me, baby, sweat, on me, go, yeah. Sweat, until I'm honey.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Dudu, what's up?
Hey, Kyle, what's happening?
Good.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, this is how we start the show. We get a little bit loose with some Afrobeat. Still waiting for the people to join. I'm actually trying out a new streaming platform today. I'm using Riverside for the first time ever. My annual subscription to StreamYard expired like yesterday, which it's sort of the 1 year anniversary of going solo. Because the first thing I did when I left INX was buy a StreamYard subscription for myself. Because I knew whatever happens, I'd be streaming. Since then, I've added like 7 different AR tools for content creation. But the first thing I did was buy StreamYard, and like an idiot, I bought a year subscription. I mean, they were good. I enjoyed the experience, but Riverside has some insane editing capabilities, so I'm excited to try this out.
Yeah, Mazal Tov.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see who else is joining us. Which streaming platform do you use? Do you use any of them?
Back in my days of Bitcoin Bedaka, we used StreamYard. Yeah, I think it was good. It was basic, nothing too much, but was fairly good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bitcoin Bidaka. That's an epic show. Like, what was that about?
So basically, the idea was Bitcoin is super complex. No one knows anything about Bitcoin. Um, and everything out there, every material you have out there is basically Jameson Lopp explaining in a 50-page article what is hash rate or whatever. And we want to
Yeah,
explain Bitcoin in simple layman terms. Do you know the prompt? Explain to me like I'm five.
yeah,
It's basically not five, but 10. So we talked about different topics. We had people explaining different issues. We also had Udi one time. We had, I don't know, back
that's cool.
then yeah. So we hosted a lot of people from the Israeli community where they explained terms in Bitcoin. Um, and that was the idea. Then we started doing it as a pod. It was basically a 1 minute video at a time, and then we started doing podcasts where we hosted people, talked shit, and talked about different topics, which was honestly so much fun. I envy you doing this. I think this is so fun. And
Yeah, it's
we
pretty
also did
fun.
some yeah, and we also did some street interviews and stuff like that, where we use because in Bitcoin or crypto, whatever you want to call it, Web 2, Web 3, blockchain, call it whatever you want, but um, we're in this crazy bubble in the sense that everyone are on the same spectrum of thinking. Everyone knows Bitcoin, crypto is going to happen, but then we went interviewing people in the street, Rothschild, whatever, and people don't even know what Bitcoin is, don't care to know about Bitcoin. And so, yeah, in the group of 500, 1,000 people, where we talk about Bitcoin and you chat to people on Twitter, on Telegram, whatever, everyone knows Bitcoin is great, but in real life, most people don't care about that. So that was one of the things we did, which was super interesting. The podcast, me specifically, I learned so much doing that. Met some crazy, interesting people. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's as you said, it is very fun doing this. I'm trying to automate as much of the like admin around doing the show because like yeah, me and you are talking, and we're gonna get Alex up and Mati, and we're all friends, and but to schedule it and to make the tweet and the post and to run all the operations around that, I want to get a robot. Like I'm trying to automate that as much as possible. Like
yeah.
even on Telegram, I think Telegram's a good platform because it's so easy to build a bot. The other day I vibe coded a Telegram bot. In a few
Doing what?
minutes. Let me show you. I'll show you the. It's called the Koji bot. I'm gonna like improve on it, but it's basically like a. It's basically like. Let me share my screen a second. I've just kind of hidden my chat so that no one can see my shit. Uh, but it's basically like a. So this is kind of the life cycle. You click start, right, and then it goes, start, and then you've got Konich, and then you talk to it. Like I had a few issues, and eventually I got it to generate meme, a Studio Ghibli anime frog eating Japanese restaurant, and it spat that out. This is a bot that I built in half an hour. Like that's the kind of utility you have on Telegram. And my next bot that I want to build is like a scheduling bot that you can like have him in the chat, and as soon as you guys say like yes, there's this is the time and space of whatever, it automatically sends everyone emails to everyone's calendars. It opens the link, the event. It does everything around the event and get that automated, and then I have
I'm
more
st-
time to just speak to people.
Yeah, I'm still semi-convinced that ChatGPT AI agents are basically the back end is garages of people from third world countries doing these simple tasks for us, and at the end of the day, that's what we have. Yeah, funny. I tried using this AI agent for something, and at the end of the day, it feels like it's a big screen where, yeah, before the screen, it's an AI agent doing a lot of good things for you, interesting things, but behind the scenes, it feels like I'm talking to. So at the end of the day, it's just they cover up the back end, and in the back end, it's basically people from third world countries doing answering these questions for you, and it feels like in many cases that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of that that's the first thing that's going to be automated away. Like those people, like a lot of these third world countries, they live on being like, "Hey, Mati, what's happening? GM,
Yeah,
we're in a different place today. We're trying something new. What do you think of this new feel? Like, it's a bit different to the boxes. It's a different like experience. I don't know how easy it is to stream from your X here on Riverside, but like it's my StreamYard subscription came up, so I'm playing around with some options.
Okay.
Speaker split screen like this. Hey,
I don't know how to stream it to my X. I don't see like any obvious button here or anything.
yeah. Hey, Alex, what's
Morning.
happening?
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Good, good, good. We were just having a little chat about the birds and the bees, and hey, our Tal was telling us about Bitcoin in a minute, the podcast that he ran, that he was very Bitcoin orientated. I mean, this is called the Yellow Bitcoin Breakfast Show, when we try to talk about Bitcoin and macro
And breakfast.
and breakfast. I haven't had breakfast, to be honest. It's kind of a misnomer. Yeah. It's kind of a misnomer because I never have breakfast. I just, coffee in the morning, and then lunchtime, 12 o'clock, I'll smash a shawarma or something.
Dude, that's a
you know,
junky lifestyle. You have to invest time in yourself and put some. That's a life changer.
No, look, it's intermittent fasting. It works. It's like if I eat big in the morning, it's like not the best
You should
energy.
just start your day in the morning with a shawarma.
No, not in the morning. Like
Just like
12:30,
pre-coffee.
12:00.
Just like a big,
a
shawarma.
big laugh in the mix. So GM, welcome everybody. Alex, super great to have you finally back. Tal, first time on the show. We're gonna be talking about a lot. I usually, try to bring guests from different verticals and see how we can come to the common ground and like find a topic that intersects what they're doing. So Tal over here is obviously Alex and Tal, great members of the community, like really positive people. And Tal is a co-founder of Change Story, which is a PR agency. We'll get more into that. And Alex is the founder and CEO of Maverick, real world asset powerhouse now, based out of Dubai. How do we bring that together? How do we let's have a conversation about Bitcoin, about the real world assets. Alex has a deal to share with us, and about how to get famous, how to get some press for ourselves and for our clients and for other people. But first, before we do anything, we have to take it to Mati, because this has been like, I feel like the floor is just rising on BTC. We're seeing a lot more institutional interest in terms of ETF inflows are back in the green, and we're seeing this kind of big debate now around Bitcoin, with regards to the new Bitcoin core proposal, right? So kind of give us a little, yes, there we go. Let's start off with the basics, the ABCs, before we dive into the advanced calculus.
Do you have a gavel over there?
A gavel where?
Like how judges are like slamming down with that hammer on their desk?
I need a gavel, yeah. I need like a little, like the one that like makes a fart noise when you hit it down. Like
A whoopee cushion. Just get a whoopee cushion.
A gavel on a whoopee cushion.
Okay.
This is a great looking graph. I'm long. What you got to tell me about this?
The 50-day moving average, this red line, is still below 90K. I mean, this graph says to me we could be in for a chop. Now, obviously, it's Bitcoin, and you never know; it could just sweep straight to the moon from here at any point. But if you just look at the ups and downs and the patterns of that, um, I think we're looking at some sort of a resistance line over here. Some sort of a support line that could come up here. And there's a lot of room for, even if this is a very strong upward trend, there's a lot of room for a pullback even towards 81 or even 79 if it depending on the time frame of it reaching there. So the blue line 200-day moving average is moving up steadily.
Yeah, we're way above the 200-day moving average over there.
Yeah, I think a deviation from that, and going straight to 120K from here might not be the healthiest thing, to be honest. I don't know why Riverside is telling me that my recording is stopped. Something went wrong.
So maybe just refresh that.
Right.
We'll count that against them in deciding to go long term. But what do you guys think of what Mati shared? Like, are we going back down to 79, or Mati straight back in the game?
So I'm sorry that I'm not my usual bullish self. I'm just I've been doing some good trades lately on Dogecoin, but I think that the key to that is patience. Wait for the days when it's pretty obvious that it's going to print, where it's fairly obvious that we're going up 5 or 10%, and short of that, just sit on your hands right now.
Swing trading you're a respectable family man, and you're swing trading on memes. What a timeline.
150x, dude.
But I think you're right to not be your usual bullish self, because I felt like this 97 K Bitcoin, like, for me that was a great time to get out of some position. Obviously some hardcore sats you never sell, but it's a great opportunity to get out of some positions, because I think we could go back to 79, 80. I think the tariffs are not resolved in any way. I think the world is a powder keg right now, both on a geopolitical level, on a tariff, economic level. And if we get a little relief pump, welcome home. Hopefully that once tariff gets resolved, we can resume up only, because I think, as Alex will mention, will talk us through, with the real world asset deal, the time to be a builder in crypto has never been better from a regulatory standpoint. And nevertheless, the macro clouds are overpowering that. So once the macro clouds go away, then we'll have an opportunity to take advantage of the fact that, the president of America has a meme coin on Solana, and that's the timeline we're living in. And it's like open season for builders.
Yeah, I still can't believe I woke up that morning and saw that on a Saturday morning, just seeing that, now there's a Trump meme coin, then came Melania, and then it still blows my mind in that sense. I think we're getting, the SEC is holding a roundtable discussion with builders as well. I mean, the U.S. sentiment, I was talking to Dave Hendricks from Vertalo, after the election, even before Trump took office, the entire sentiment around, tokenization and crypto in the United States has already completely changed. It was night and day. I think the fact that we're seeing Bitcoin not perform as we'd like it to is pure market manipulation. Because if you look at the amount of Bitcoin that's also on exchanges right now, you look at the amount of demand that's going on right now, I still don't understand how it's not above 100. It doesn't mathematically make sense to me in that regard.
So your evidence of market manipulation is you think it should be higher?
My evidence of market manipulation is that there's extreme demand and extremely low supply, and the price is not following suit.
I mean, one could argue that 94K is pretty high.
It is pretty high, but is it high relative to the having like extremely low supply of Bitcoin on exchanges?
Well, I guess we'll see.
It is if you look at Bitcoin's fully diluted value, but if you look at what's actually available in circulation, I don't think so at all. Now, granted, the industry has also been a little spoiled with 94K Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong. I mean, people aren't going into alts. They're still afraid. They're still waiting. But it's they've gotten spoiled. You look at every single altcoin today, and they're all down, right? All the money's still sitting in Bitcoin, waiting to come back in. So we'll see.
Yeah, and we see the Bitcoin dominance pushing 65% now. Certainly a cycle high. This is the highest it's been since January.
Pull that one up, Matty. Pull that one up for us.
Oh yeah, here it is. Bitcoin dominance chart, 6490 at the moment. So you can see this is the last time it was that high, January 2021. So basically just before DeFi summer. This is DeFi summer where, altcoins rose in comparison to Bitcoin. And this is about as strong a trend as trends get in the market. Of course, we had the guys from Lunar Crush on one of our shows the other day. John Farjo says, look, to me, to him anyways, that's a slingshot, being pulled back and ready to just, plummet as soon as the market conditions turn. But you can see it's a very clear pattern of the market consolidating into Bitcoin. And I think that makes sense given where we are right now, Gary Gensler has chased out all the good actors and left the bad actors. And now the good actors are coming back into the space slowly but surely. It's going to take them time before we can see stuff that's actually built to last and stuff that, is actually going to deliver any sort of value to this market. So insofar as most of the market caps are dominated by meme coins and useless AI coins, a consolidation into Bitcoin makes sense, especially while we are in this kind of choppy market conditions.
Matty,
I want to ask. Yeah, sorry, Alex.
Just give me 1 second. I want to add to that is that, Bitcoin's dominance relative to alts, it also acts like a kind of flight to safety. The way stock markets will sell off and move into the dollar. With altcoins, they'll move into Bitcoin. And so you see alts drop against Bitcoin. And it's not necessarily a Bitcoin rise in value per se, but it's that increase in dominance as you've been talking about. But the second that people are willing to start taking risks again, that Bitcoin dominance the dominance level will go down as capital flows into alts. The problem, as you've also stated, is that, look, when you've got meme coins that provide absolutely zero substance, where's that money going to run into? If you scroll back to the DeFi summer for a moment. So like this drop, it's really interesting because the drop reflects value flowing into other currencies, right? And it's in DeFi summer, we finally got the beginning of like smart contracts that were actually useful for people, right? We were able to build products, and that's where you saw this radical rise of value in all these different, DeFi platforms. Whether it was yield farming is unsustainable, fine. It's, just customer acquisition costs. It's the way to get a token out there. However, if you look at Bitcoin dominance today, where's that money going to flow into? Is it flowing into meme coins on Solana and Base? Because I don't see why it should. Right? There's no substance there outside of quick trades, and then you get the rug pulls and all these other things. So, you could obviously call me biased on this factor, but I think it's going to flow into RWA platforms that actually deliver value.
I'm definitely agreeing with that. But it's important to note that during this period of this huge drop, Bitcoin did rise in value. It's just that there were other smaller market, and that's the tricky thing about market caps, right? When you have a large market cap, it takes a lot of inflows to increase the market cap by a little bit. And some of these meme coins or some of the smaller altcoins with a smaller market cap, it takes only a little bit of inflows to dramatically increase their market cap. And therefore, what we have to understand is that this doesn't necessarily represent a whole lot of value shifting hands, but what it does represent is, as you've mentioned, Alex, a willingness for market participants to take a bit of a risk. But yeah, there's at the moment there's nothing for people to actually take a risk on. Everybody's already been burnt off of the latest flavor of the day, meme coin or whatever, and people are sick of it. So we're gonna have to see some projects stepping up, delivering real value in order to see this triumph.
Honestly, I don't think people are sick of it. Respectfully, I think people are still. If you look at I don't know, pump swap stuff like that, it seems like volumes are rising in hundreds of millions a day. And I don't know. So I wanted to ask about this. I'm not a technical person, guy. This is a different language to me. But my question is, how critical is actually Bitcoin, something with actual market cap, compared to things with no market cap, things with you can just make up today, their market cap is gonna pump in a second because Trump said something, because Haley, the Hawk Tour girl, said something. I don't know. So how relevant is market cap of Bitcoin compared to these kind of things? I'm not sure. I don't know. Again, I don't know a lot about technical analysis, but I do think people aren't looking for value at the moment. They're looking to make $2 out of one, or maybe even more. I think 2x is probably boring now for people. They're looking for the next 100x or nothing. I think that's why Bitcoin is boring to people. People in crypto are looking at Bitcoin as a boring thing compared to anything you can. I'll put everything on red and hopefully get the best. And people outside of Bitcoin are looking at, outside of crypto, are looking at Bitcoin again as a boring thing, because so many things are happening, and that's why I think Bitcoin is slowing down. But I'm not seeing any intense value increase even after MicroStrategy, after Semler, after whatever companies buying Bitcoin right now. Maybe GME hopefully. But yeah, my 2 cents.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Bitcoin dominance, it's Bitcoin relative to the rest of the entire market. So the lower that dominance is, it means the higher market cap that market has relative to Bitcoin, right? So if Bitcoin's dominance is at let's say close to all-time highs, or at least in the last 4-year highs, you're looking at the rest of the market simply not keeping up with the rise in value of Bitcoin. And so when add to that pump funds decline in volume, you're starting to see people shy away from these things. I mean, I've had sovereign wealth-backed funds come to me and tell me that they're putting the rest of their capital into trading meme coins based on their fundamentals. And that's when I kind of like took a step back and I was like, you guys are cooked. But
I mean, looking at the volumes on Pump Fund, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's this huge decline. I mean, to be honest, it's not where it was in February, but there's still plenty of action happening there right now.
I mean, that's like a 50% drop.
But I'm also talking about Pump Swap. They launched
but it's 100% increase since last year.
But people like with Pump Fund, people are like, oh, Pump Fund only did $1 million in fees a day. Like they were doing 100 million 2 months ago. But there's still the activity's still there. Like the other day, the launch of a Boost.fund.
Lately, I think they must have reduced their fees, because like the fees did drop off a cliff here. That's like the one thing that's very clear on this chart.
I don't recall.
It seems like it's the same date same time period when they launched the DEX, the pump swap. But I'm not sure about the fees.
It could be a data issue as well. You never really know
Yeah.
with these things. Maybe they're
There's a guy I really like following in terms of Solana swap, all things Solana, is Adam TEHC, Adam Tech, pronounced wrongly. He's a really good analyst, doing a lot of things on Solana, doing some really good work in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out of the trenches for a long time, and my mental health is a lot better. So like, just trying to catch those runners on the Telegram bot, like, it's not good for your real life relationships. Like, I'd be in the middle of dinner with my kid, just kind of like, oh shit, like scrolling and aping coins, and it takes over your whole life, and the ROI just isn't worth it, you know. But I think with regards to BTC and the whole ecosystem, like, we showed the Bitcoin dominance chart, we showed the pump fund chart, and all these charts sort of point to the fact that people and Alex, I want to ask you about this, because it seems like people are just kind of took out the middle. There's a lot of activity on the institutional side of BTC, buying and holding BTC. That's why the dominance is going up. And who's to say the dominance has to come down? Like, we've been trained on this 4-year cycle, thinking that Bitcoin leads, alt follows, then there's a crash, and then it all restarts around the halving. But who's to say that that's going to hold now? Like, now we have institutions and government and you know, private individuals, wealthy sovereign funds buying Bitcoin. That's sort of who's to say that we're going to see those 4-year cycles happen, and who's to say that altcoins are going to have their moment? Like, maybe BTC dominance just chills at 65 forever. So, like, I want to get your take on that, because it seems like we're in a barbell situation where you have people buying Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin, trading a lot of memes, worthless, 15-minute shit, and this whole gap in the middle of sort of utilities and more, like, substantial stuff. The VC money isn't flowing like it used to back in 2022 into projects. Launch pads are struggling to do fundraising. So, what do you think about that whole sort of the missing middle, I would say, of fundraising?
Oh, well, that's a whole different subject. I mean, it's, I ran into Matti at Token 2049 recently in Dubai. And to be fair, I was, as much as the conference was probably the biggest one that there was, I was a little let down to those, let's say, showing, like, kind of like displaying their wares there, so to say. I mean, you had this overwhelming dominance of exchanges all vying for attention and very few projects. And so that kind of leads me back to, I don't want to say that there's been no innovation in the blockchain space since DeFi Summer, but I would say that there's been little innovation that has been turned into practical products since DeFi Summer. And so you kind of, to touch on your point of, okay, well, BlackRock's buying Bitcoin, ultra high net worth individuals, sovereign wealth funds are buying Bitcoin, great, but will that translate into, alt season? It's one of those things where it's kind of like trickle down economics. So Bitcoin moves, and then that increase in value trickles into other alts as people are looking to get into higher risk assets in order to make more money. But you're not going to get that if there's no there's no qualitatively redeemable assets or products that you want to get into. So DeFi Summer, wonderful. However, the narrative's only got stupider and stupider since then. I mean, look at where we've gone from, right? We have DeFi Summer. You're able to trade things as you want or borrow against them, and oracles and yield products. And then we got NFTs, and it was like, hey, look, we've got monkeys on chain. And then it was, it kind of felt like the banana taped to a wall moment a bit. And then it was like, oh, well, NFTs are dead now because they provided no real value outside of showing off, like you'd pull up to a club with a Lamborghini, which is nice, right? But like, that doesn't justify having a Lamborghini for longer than an hour rental as you pull up to the club. Then it went into from meme coins. It went in from NFTs. It went into meme coins, and then meme coins were inherently zero quality, right? There's no product there. And I've had people in the Solana ecosystem try to explain it. Goes, no, it's the culture behind it. It's the reason why Balmain sells shirts for more than, Gap. And I was like, if you're seeing the people buying those shirts, but, that's a whole narrative in and of itself. So you went from NFTs to meme coins to AI agents, which effectively took LLMs and chatbots and connected it to meme coins, because the tokens had no economic, mechanical connection to the LLM. So you got a chatbot with a meme coin token put into one. It's like, I'm telling you, every narrative right now has just gotten stupider and stupider for the last 3 to 4 years. So there's nowhere really for people to put their money into, which leads me back to, again, why I think we're going to have, an RWA summer, so to say, and it's. Yeah, that not to be a little bit humble about it. That's why our most recent deal is a highlight of that.
Congratulations.
This isn't the place to be humble. Matty, can you stop sharing your screen? I don't know how to remove the screen share.
No way, man. We want to say congratulations, Alex, on apparently the largest RWA tokenization deal in history. So good job, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really interesting to come about, because we've been building out the RWA ecosystem on Maverick for quite a while now, and it's a really wild story. But long story short, I started helping this massive exchange in Dubai with their tokenomics, and they were really keen on RWAs. We didn't really know how that puzzle piece was going to fit together, and then at one point they got a call about a developer that's looking to get into RWAs, and they wanted to see a showcase of our tech. So, actually, we just wanted to have a talk, and then I showcased the tech, which was, really interesting. And I was able to show them, going in, using your wallet, fully non-custodial, buying an RWA token that uses an RWA token standard and compliant out of a permission DEX, then borrowing against it in Maven. And I think they were just blown away. So, we've gotten some assets over. They're going to all be yield-bearing assets, even though they're off-plan housing. We've structured something really unique here, and it allows people to get into assets like the Ritz-Carlton that's coming to Maverick now. And Couture Reserve, which is widely known locally. It's the largest tokenization deal in history in terms of a single deal coming together, and we've got plans to scale that to a much larger figure that we'll save for a different press release. But it's something that I think, you don't usually get a tri-party deal as opposed to a two-party deal if you look at other tokenization deals. And in ours, we've got, multi-bank as the exchange where you'd actually be able to buy the assets. We've got MAG as the asset provider that's going to funnel assets into the exchange. And we've got Maverick providing the tech. So this is something that, usually it's a two-party deal and there's a missing element, which is distribution. And with multi-bank in here, we've got, they're regulated in 17 countries, giving them access to about 143 countries. It's something it's unprecedented in the RWA space. I think it's going to fundamentally change the way we handle RWAs.
So explain it like you're explaining to your mom. What the hell does this mean?
So a real estate, you have a real estate that you can buy and hold it as a token. Sorry, my mom's Iranian. I have to.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a good one. I felt the flavor of the courgette in my mouth while you were talking.
Every time I go back to visit my mother in Los Angeles, my wife's like, "You came back with an accent." I'm like, "My mom doesn't have an accent," and then I kind of go back now, and I'm like, "Yeah, she does." The way that I explain it to my mom and my best friends back in LA, who are also Persian and in real estate, is long story short, we digitize the asset, the ownership of real estate, so that you could own a fraction of it using a token instead of a paper certificate like you would with stocks.
Okay, so people can now trade real estate online, and then if they decide to buy a piece of a building in Manhattan or whatever, they just take custody of that into their MetaMask wallet, and then they own that, and that's legally binding now.
Correct, except it'd be on a Maverick wallet.
What happens if
A
you
Maverick
lose your
wallet.
access to the wallet? You lose there's a part of a property lost forever.
No. So RWAs are what are called permissioned assets, and there is a super admin that can recover those assets, and it's a compliance and regulatory thing. You know, imagine, God forbid, someone in the family dies and you need to get access to your inheritance, or there's some sort of fraud or theft, or you lose your wallet. There's a super admin, kind of like a transfer agent, who can then recover the tokens and give them to the rightful owners or rightful heirs, which is really interesting because not to throw shade, but just to put it out there, is that SUI doesn't support that function, and there are going to be a lot of problems if there are assets that are issued on SUI in terms of RWAs.
Well, we don't know who Sui is, so that's okay.
It is a $35 billion blockchain, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But the point is that
Good friends with them, but it's tech has its
does it not
niche features.
Does it not lose some of its specialness if the blockchain now has a super admin? And I mean, what's the point of self custody if somebody can anyways come in and change the ownership?
Yeah, can I sell something to Matty and you as a super admin not liking Matty and then just taking it, or am I missing something?
What if you think I'm a criminal or whatever, and then the government steps in and says, the censorship resistance has gone out the window, it seems, right?
So, well, here's the thing. Decentralization is a spectrum. It's not a binary, yes, yay, nay on decentralization. There's an argument for it, don't get me wrong, right? There is fully decentralized and there is permissioned. However, decentralization in between there, it opens up doors that you wouldn't have access to in other fashions before. So for example, the self-custody allows you to, let's take Centrifuge for a second, right? Or Securitize. So right now in centralized platforms, if you issue, let's call it the Ritz-Carlton as an asset to be sold, then you're limited to whether or not that platform allows you to sell the asset in a secondary market or borrow against it. If you want to get a loan, A, if they even offer it, that's one thing, but B, you're stuck to the parameters that they allow you to use. By using blockchain tech, even as permissioned, you then open up, and this is what we've been building at Maverick, is that, yeah, you know what, we jumpstart the ecosystem with Maven Finance as a RWA bank. But then there might be 10 other banking platforms that come onto the chain that might say, okay, well, you know what, Maven does lending as fixed loans. We're going to do as dynamic rates loans. We're going to give fixed loans. We're going to allow people to trade these mortgages. We're going to allow things. So you open up this, yes, it's an open walled garden, if that makes sense, once you put it on chain. Now, when it comes to censorship resistance and permissionless assets, we don't live in a world where you can issue these things in that type of fashion. That's not possible. So, I mean, I agree with you, right? But it's, I'd rather have a world where I can take $100,000 and diversify it across 10 different yield-bearing quality investments on chain, custody them myself, and have the ability to trade them whenever I want or borrow against them whenever I want, than have to go buy one apartment and get stuck on it with paperwork.
Do you think it's a milestone to a very permissionless kind of thing, or is it? Do you think there's a reality where we get there, or there's too many issues?
I don't see them as issues.
Is, though, that even today, I mean, you go and buy real estate, you can't do that in a censorship-resistant fashion. It doesn't make any sense. So this is, we can say, well, compared to Bitcoin, it's not censorship resistant, but no property is or is going to be in the
No
next
investment is.
decades. So we have to
Yeah.
we have to live in that reality.
Yeah, so it's I living in that reality. I think it's, look, we can push and move the needle by creating let's call them open gardens, let's say, in order to be able to access investments that you never had access to before. But the idea that that regulators will allow the masses to have permissionless investments, like that, God forbid a family member dies and you need to take custody of the asset and give it to the heirs. All of a sudden, poof, you own like 10% of a old
The
age
dude threw
home.
away his computer and is now sifting through the landfill.
Exactly.
I threw away a Manhattan building. Oh well.
Yeah, and then ownership is lost forever, So
Jeez.
who am I going to pay rent to? I mean, it's I just don't think that human nature will allow for such a thing. We might have renews like governance models, right? Where maybe it's not a singular super admin similar to a transfer agent. It could be operated by some form of DAO or governance mechanism that's on chain that adds a little bit more permissionless list to it. But there's no way a regulator is going to say like, okay, well, your inheritance is lost forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask a question before we get to some studio questions. If you have a question for Maverick, we also have a lot of comments. We can't put them up on the stage here, Mati. I think that's another vote against Riverside.
Really? Why not?
I don't see, because there's no, like the live chat feature, it doesn't show me the comment from Twitter.
What?
So that's, I think, a very much in favor of
that's
StreamYard, because
aggravating.
StreamYard does have that feature. But
Right.
I want to ask you a question, and that is, why? So, like, I understand if I'm an investor, a retail investor, like, I want to get some sort of maybe 6%, 7%, 8% yield, and I want to invest in something that isn't hot air Ponzi, right? I understand why I would go into the multi-bank platform. I would download a Maverick wallet. I'd get set up. What would I deposit there? USDT or USDC or whatever, and then I'd use that to buy a piece of rental property tokenized. But what about the rental owners, the real estate developers? Like, what's in it for example, MAG, the company that you're doing this $3 billion deal? Like, I understand multi-bank Maverick, what interest they have in bringing this deal to the table. What interest does a massive multi-billion-dollar real estate developer have for bringing it on chain? And I know all the it's the decentralization, whatever. But like at the bottom, push comes to shove. Like, what's the meat of why they would do something like this?
Yeah, so just to answer one thing that you touched on at the beginning of the conversation is that when a user will go into the multi-bank platform, they actually get a Maverick wallet that's embedded and enshrined into the platform, which is a Fireblocks wallet. So it's actually quite interesting, and we can go into the technicalities of how we built the platform, but long story short, it's actually all on chain. Now, so when it comes to what MAG's interest is in this, and we did a great panel when we announced this at Token 2049 with myself, the CEO of Multibank, Zach, and the CFO of MAG, Amer. You could see it on our channels. We shared it. I believe it actually posted yesterday via Mario Nawfal's IBC group. So what's in it for MAG is, what's really interesting about MAG is they look at tokenization as the next step of dealing with real estate. So, they want to get ahead of the curve when it comes to technology in the real estate sector. Secondly, in terms of like balance sheet management, when you're a company as big as MAG, you put out a new development, you're not putting out one development necessarily at a time, but you're putting out multiple developments at once, which means that you have to outlay hundreds of millions of dollars to start the development of a new project. And if you don't sell that until you actually get to the handover date, you're now looking at just sitting on this, you've put out funds that you're not getting for years on end. By tokenizing these assets and selling them ahead of getting to market, they're able to recoup that money, and effectively they can recycle their money into more projects more quickly.
Yeah, I hear you. So you're kind of you're selling your future rental for upfront payment, and then you being able to using that upfront to get more properties going, to get more developments going. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I was like, I think for me, real estate, like having sort of been in the real world asset space for a couple of years now, and like you do sort of a lot of you try and find a lot. I've tried to find a lot of deal flow for tokenization services, and real estate is the obvious answer, right? Because there's a high unit cost. It makes sense to fractionalize. It makes sense to give retail investors some access to real estate. But for some reason, like there was a Swiss hotel that was tokenized like a couple years ago. I forgot what it was called.
The St. Regis Hotel in Aspen, Colorado.
So that the St. Regent, and that's like the last big real estate deal that happened until you guys came on the scene. So why do you think there's been this sort of 4 or 5 year gap where nothing of note has happened as far as real estate tokenization?
So there's a few reasons behind this. I won't dive too deeply into each one. I'll kind of high level them. For starters, like I said, the narrative got stupider and stupider in the crypto space. So they used to be called security token offerings, STOs, and now they're called RWAs. And effectively, there's a bit of a disconnect between the traditional world that doesn't understand the tech and the tech world that doesn't understand business. And so you got all these platforms that came out and they were like, oh, well, we tokenize this house as an NFT, and because it's an NFT, it's not an investment. And I'm just like, guys, that's not how that works. There are ways, depending on how you structure things like, around securities laws, that is clearly not the way to do it. So, but that's not to say that hasn't actually manifested in real estate tokenization over the last few years. There are a couple spearheads of the industry when it came to, the tokenization side of real estate, which is Realty, a platform built on Gnosis Chain, and Lofty, a platform based on Algorand. And don't quote me on the numbers, but I think they've done 150 and 100 million respectively in terms of tokenization. And so they've actually pushed the narrative forward in terms of executing on that. Slowly but surely they did so. Realty started with $50,000, $75,000 homes in the Detroit area, right? So that got moving forward. You also had platforms like Harbor, which raised $50 million and was started by lawyers, but when they wanted to tokenize a luxury student housing complex in South Carolina, they missed the fact that the mortgage had a no transfer clause on it and the bank wouldn't allow it to change ownership. And it's like, well, isn't the whole point of fractionalization and trading, the purpose behind that is to change ownership? So that fell through. So you're seeing, there's been a lot of grifting in the crypto space, a lot of rug pulls, a lot of people selling vaporware, and that's continuing in the RWA space as well. You have a lot of platforms that promise to be RWA platforms, but they're vaporware with an RWA marketing narrative. And so there's nothing really there past, hey, we're a layer 1 or we're a layer 2 for RWAs. And it's like, okay, but what makes you for RWAs? What do you have? What tech do you have or deal flow do you have that makes you for RWAs? Because if you have the deal flow, you don't have the tech. Oopsie. If you've got just the L1 or L2, but you don't have any dApps on top of it, oopsie. And then you've actually there's actually some platforms out there. Also, to be fair, there are institutional RWA L1s out there, which I don't believe in pure institutional plays. You need to be able to offer access and opportunity to the masses, not just, hey, we've got like 5 high net worth individuals who use this platform. Great. There's another RWA platform out there that effectively was an L2, then became an L1, but is an L2 still, but then there's no documentation how it's an L1. So you have to be wary of the RWA field. Don't look at the hype, look at what's deployed.
Well, I mean, look at this guy speaking big now that he's got the deal flow and everything like that. But you got to recognize that a few weeks ago you were in the space where you were vying for that for that deal flow, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And
well, the difference is we built the dApps for it. So we built an RWA token standard for a chain. We built 3 different permission DEXs, an AMM, an order book, and a OTC markets for the chain. We built RWA vaults for lending and oracles. So yes, the deal flow, thankfully it was a product of a long, hard work of over the years, but it's very different than saying, hey, we have a chain and it happens to be for RWAs, but there's nothing we've done nothing to make it, to tailor it for RWAs.
I see. Okay, so you're trying to point out the hypocrisy in marketing plays versus what the tech can actually do.
Yeah. Don't look at what people say, look at what they do.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, there was something running across the screen there on Riverside. What was the question there? Dudu?
Something popped on the screen. What kind of tech does Maverick implement to support RWA tokenization that differentiates it from other L1s?
Pertinent question.
Yeah. So long story short, we built an RWA token standard.
Before you start, I'm always on mute. Before you start, I want to ask in a kind of different way, because I did hear that I've seen that MAG, this real estate deal that they were supposed to tokenize, and there were talks of other chains being the L1 for that. So maybe you can use this question as a segue to kind of why MAG chose to tokenize their portfolio on the Maverick network.
Yeah, I tend not to. I try to stick away from naming names when it comes to competitors. I think a rising tide raises all ships when there's quality there. When it comes to these assets that were slated to go to Mantra, there's no hiding around the fact, right? There were press releases around the assets on 2 different chains. The Ritz-Carlton and Katura are coming to Maverick, so that's something to put that out there. When it comes to why Maverick, like I was telling Matthew before, and to answer that, segue into that question that popped up on the screen, is we built product before we decided to launch a token. So what we did is that we went out there and got the chain up. We built an RWA token standard for that allows RWAs to function in a permissioned but feels like permissionless manner that works in conjunction with the 3 different RWA DEX technologies that we've built as well, and that works as well with the lending also. So when you buy something, an RWA on Maverick, using our token standard in the multi-bank platform, you're effectively, that token, that asset, will now work in other RWA platforms that use our tech, and that will also work in the lending modules that we've built for Maven as well. And one of the differences between us and other L1s, I would say even in just the general purpose L1s that have different dApps on them, is that one person does tokenization tech. One person does just the digitization is tokenization. Then another side has a marketplace. Then another side has lending. And none of these guys are really talking to each other to make sure that if this token gets digitized here, this asset gets digitized here, is it tradable in that other platform? Are you able to use it to get a loan in platform number 3? And so the big difference is that instead of taking like an Android approach of, hey, it's a completely open, it is a permissionless chain, so you can deploy other dApps that you'd like to there. But if you'd like to work within the confines of the business development that we're bringing on board, if you work within our token standard rules, you'll be able to ensure that all of this works together. So think of it more of like the Apple environment, where you buy your iPhone, you've got your Mac, your watch is going to sync perfectly with your phone and your computer. And that's the major difference of what makes Maverick stand apart from not just RWA specific L1s, but the general purpose L1s when it comes to integrating RWAs as an economy, as an interoperable.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Next question from the audience. We have one more after this. How do I justify the ownership of my tokenized RWA to the tax authorities? And how can I prove that I actually own a property like a hotel, for example?
It kind of like makes it sound strange. Like, how can I justify going bowling when my wife wants to go to dinner? It's you don't have to justify why Why you own a hotel. It's an investment that you wanted to put your money towards. You think it'll go up in value. I think the question more relies on like how do you prove it to the tax authorities, and you own it just like
asking about reporting.
you'd report it just the same way that you own any other like fractional share of an SPV. The high net worth individual side of the world does this all the time. It's nothing nothing different than that. The technology doesn't change the nature of the asset. It changes the your access to the asset.
Okay,
Yeah,
I've got a lot.
I think it'd be easier to print out a report of stuff that you own, anyways. When you bought it and stuff like that.
I've got a wallet. I bought this token. I DCA'd 10 times into it, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I've got this other token. These are the dividends that are flowing in on a monthly scale. I mean, you've got automated reporting if you think about it that way, using blockchain.
Yeah,
It's not like that.
I think that's one of the advantages of real world assets on chain is the fact that you could automate all the compliance and reporting. We have a bunch of
That's
other
a side of the
questions.
world I don't want to go down on this because I think
Yeah.
taxation is theft, and the governments are overreaching on people. So
We need another show just for that, bro. Just for that. Like as there's a whole. I think it's interesting that you saying that from a real world asset standpoint, because most real world asset builders are more like believe in sort of a hybrid where you have the efficiency of blockchain and the trustless collaboration, but you also have compliance and government and taxes, and you're not you're just adding different piping to an existing system as opposed to trying to rebuild all that on chain. So it's interesting to have a real world asset man talking Ayn Rand, talking libertarian.
if it were up to me, it would all be built that way in the most permissionless manner that we can, as like Tal was bringing up earlier, right? But I live in a world where that's just not a possibility. There are possibilities to push the envelope, right? To someone designs a bulletproof vest, and then gun manufacturers build a more penetrating bullet, and it's a back and forth between this cat and mouse game of one creating one side, one creating another side. And right now, to me, DeFi and RWAs is a non-kinetic but violent response, not violent in terms of physical violence, but a non-kinetic violent response to government overreach and manipulated markets against the masses. So the more that we can actually, from the libertarian standpoint, open up the door, like Dudu, how many hotels do you own? Or Matty or Tal?
Not enough, bro.
I'm not interested in disclosing in public.
Not enough hotel.
Tal, not Monopoly hotels. Not Monopoly hotels.
I haven't. I'm only on like a second house before I can build it.
But when it comes to these assets like real estate, I mean, I was doing the math on some of my friends, with some of my friends, on how long it would take to save up for millennials to buy a home in different cities, and assuming you're not investing the money you're putting into savings, it would take about 48 years to save up the down payment for a property. Our grandparents bought homes for like 7 raspberries and are handing them down to our parents, and then millennials and Gen Z have absolutely no chance of getting into real estate without help from above or incredibly successful jobs.
Right.
So tokenization not only allows you to get your foot through the door, right? You just need to get into the game. You don't need to win the game on day one. You just need to get into the game. Tokenization allows you not only to get started earlier, and compound earlier, but it allows you to access investments you wouldn't have before, like hotels or insurance-linked securities, or buying a fractional piece of a Bitcoin mine, et cetera, et cetera. And if you compound your earnings and returns and the principal appreciation, one second. If you compound that, you can beat Social Security. What would take Social Security 40 years, you can beat in 13.
Well, wouldn't turning these illiquid assets into a liquid form of investment ripe for speculation actually inflate the prices of homes in the long run?
Yes and no. I mean, there's obviously a demand in terms of building. We're building like never before. If you look at, the also population declines as well. There's less and less people actually being born in the West. Like
Yeah, but we
below
see like
rates.
BlackRock, you know, buying up real estate and whatnot. But you're basically just making this easier for them to speculate on the price of
BlackRock doesn't need tokenization to get into the real estate game.
But they don't need it, but it makes it easier and more.
It makes it easy. Sure, but right now you've got a system where BlackRock has access and you don't. The 1% has access and 99% doesn't. So should we level the playing field, or should we continue to keep it in a way where only the 1% has access?
Well, being in the 1%.
Matty's actually, that's the background is Matty's private yacht. It's so large that it's got a marble staircase.
Right.
We've got a last question from the audience. Thank you to guys for answering. Those of you that won, I commented in the chat here. You know, DM us your address. You will be receiving a little something from Maverick. Thank you, guys. We did have a question from Malone Schwarzman, Alex, about. I have to ask that question, but before that, maybe can you give us a quick overview about the MRC30 standard, what that means for real-world assets?
Well, it's actually nice to see him, you know, acknowledge smart contract blockchains and not just dismiss them because Bitcoin is king and nothing but Bitcoin is worthy. You know, like you are not worthy. I feel like that's alone when it comes to non-Bitcoin things. So, you know, thanks for the question and seeing that as well. So when it comes to the MRC30 standard, I kind of went into how it allows interoperability earlier in the call. For the sake of time, I'll get to how it's different than ERC20 or 721. ERC20 is just a standard, regular, plain, boring, I mean, not boring, relatively, token. It allows you to mint any token per se, and there's no compliance requirements built into the ERC20, right? There's no whitelist, blacklist, KYC parameters that are built into it, etc. It is a fungible token. The MRC30 token actually allows you to deploy an RWA either as a fungible token, so you can own 17.5, you know, of the tokens of the RWAs. It also allows you to issue an RWA that effectively are non-fungible tokens, so you could only own in single digits, so 1 token, 2 tokens, 3 tokens, 4 tokens, etc., without owning fractions. That being said, we're using the fungible version for the RWAs. ERC 721 is the non-fungible token standard. It also doesn't have those compliance requirements built in as well. So I would call them a little bit, you know, the MRC30 token is a step above in terms of specific rule sets that you can allow the token to have in order to make it, let's say, perfected for RWAs. Where ERC20 is just, hey, there's a token and it's fungible. ERC 721 is, hey, there's a token and it's not fungible.
Cool. We are at the end of our show. That was a terribly exciting, thrilling hour. But before we go, I wanna, you know, I feel like I didn't give Tal his moment to shine, and I just kind of wanna ask you, Tal, like, what do you think about a deal like this? You know, how do we go about? Obviously, this is very easy to get good PR for, like $3 billion real estate deal. Everyone loves Dubai. Alex did a right thing, launched the token 2049 Dubai. So everyone's searching Dubai anyway, and then this pops up Dubai, like, it's great timing. So, you know, maybe walk us through someone who doesn't have $3 billion deal coming up, like, which is most of the companies in the space. What can they do to kind of maybe give us a couple minutes? And then we'll close on that. And then we'll wish you guys the best of day and go about our merry way.
So I'll start off saying that I'm more than happy to sacrifice my time. It was very interesting. So yeah, Alex, Mary was very interesting. I will say, yeah, most companies don't have a 3 billion announcement, but they are looking for that attention. And they won't get it. They won't get it if you don't just get the attention if you don't have the substance. Yeah, it is what it is. No one's going to talk about you launching another product which is 99% nine, similar to every competitor out there. From the get-go, the answer is no. You don't just get it, but what you do, what project I think should do is a couple of things. Mehdi showed earlier the Dune dashboard. I think showing off, not showing off, but being transparent about what's happening on your platform protocol and showing this level of transparency and what users are doing. So a couple of months ago, I think 6-8 months ago, we partnered with Dune, helping companies do that. So we are very big on companies being transparent on what's happening with their users, what users are doing, how the protocol, how are they interacting with their different products, protocol, and these kind of things, because that's what people love talking about. And that's kind of a cycle where if you get to a point where people are interested in, there's more traction, there's more users, people are doing more activities on with your products, there's more things to discuss. And that's, you don't just get to that pinnacle where everyone's talking about you. It's something you build up. So I think one thing is being transparent and putting the data on your on Dune or maybe other third-party on-chain analytic platforms, because it's a message. It's a message showing people, yeah, I'm transparent. This is what I have, and I think it says a lot. Companies that don't do that, I think it's a policy, not a policy, but it tells a lot about them, about the company. Where it put its effort, that they know they want to be a part of the community, they want to share what's happening, and they put time and effort, elbow grease into it. Second is, I think many people do a mistake where they're trying to talk to the Vitalik level of people instead of the users. I think that's a miss. Everyone's trying to flex that they know the best about what they do, which sababa, it's cool, but most people aren't that. Most people are average Joes, or obviously depends on the platform, depends on what you do, but most people aren't that. But founders or teams are trying to sometimes reach out to this level of audience, which I think is cool. You know the tech, you know the stuff. You're a founder or you're a team doing that. That's great for you, but most of your audience isn't necessarily there. And I think that's one of the things we're missing in crypto, that everyone's talking here, but most people are not. Most people are not in this level of knowledge. And I think there's a big knowledge gap in that sense. Yeah, that's about it.
I wanted to add something in to what you said, is that, and tying it back to what we were talking about earlier, is, deliver with products. I think the time for grifting and, fake vaporware promises, launching a token and not having any product there, I think the time for that hopefully is over. And so, kill them with product. We've been in blockchain for over 13 years. Smart contracts have existed for a decade now. We still don't have mainstream products. And that's where, like you said, is understanding where you're great and understanding where you're not. And that's one of the reasons why we partnered with MAG and Multibank. For the distribution, sales, and regulation, Multibank's one of the most regulated exchanges in the world. When it comes to assets, MAG's got them. So, that's one of those things, is like, we're not going to be the be all and end all of everything. But when it comes to deferring to people's analyses, as I say it for years, and I always talk up Mati, I defer to Mati's analysis and quantum economics.
Well, appreciate that.
So, always been a fan since the beginning, Mati. So, happy to share the shill.
No, awesome, guys. Thank you for a wonderful, wonderful show. We had a great turnout, lots of questions. Mati, you would have been very impressed with the number of human visitors that commented versus the number of journalists. But we're on Riverside today, so you can't
see them.
We'll make a call. Riverside has so much better editing, but StreamYard has that feature.
Restream. We use Restream on Quantum Insights, and it's a great platform.
And we'll talk about that, because I need Riverside has just the best editing, and I think the one of the biggest pros about doing long form is that you can then cut it into short form. Alex, I think we have maybe 7 months worth of Maverick content here. A lot of wonderful zingers, and we will get that cooked up for you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day. Bitcoin up only. I think we can get 100K by the end of the week. Mati, what do we say?
Anything is possible, man. Don't bet on it.
Amen. See you guys next week on the Breakfast Show.
Great to see you all. Tal, pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.